Hi everyone, I want to share something that's been a game changer for my health. Organic Farmer. That's farmer with a PH and an ER. If you're looking for top quality, plant-based nutrition, you've got to check them out. Their products are crafted with the highest quality ingredients, free from artificial additives, and meticulously designed to support your overall well-being. It's like giving your body the pure, clean fuel it deserves. Head over to organicfarmer.com, that's farmer with a PH, and use code WithoutMaps at checkout for 20% off site-wide. Trust me, your body will thank you. Welcome to Without Maps, the podcast. I'm your host, travel writer and rabble-rouser, Daniel Scheffler. For the last 2 decades, I've been working as a travel writer for publications like the New York Times, Condé Nast Traveler, and the Wall Street Journal. And I've traveled to about 130 countries and stayed at more than 2,500 hotels. If you don't know me at all, well, now is as good a time as ever to get acquainted. I was born in Africa, bred in Europe, and now I live in America. And with this mix of an accent and as much wit as I can muster up, I shall offer you some heart knowledge. This show is a delight of travel stories and some lessons from the world showcasing the humanity I believe in. This is what we call good old-fashioned storytelling. Some that will make you weep in a teacup or laugh inappropriately in public. Plus, interviews with some of the world's most compelling humans. My belief is that travel is a mirror of ourselves and a reminder to have zero expectations, to let connections happen, and to avoid the preconceived ideas we foster. The show is for people willing to forgo the guidebook and the map and let travel be their convoy. So, out with the biased and in with the unbidden. From the dive bars of New Jersey to the magic of New Delhi, from Disney to Denmark, I'll be sharing magical experiences and stories. As a travel writer, my typical month includes forcing my husband onto a flight to somewhere like Portugal to go buy leather gloves in the world's tiniest shop, or being saddled up on a mechanical bull at a gay rodeo in Dallas, or I could be foraging with Aboriginals in Western Australia. So please join me as I venture into the world without maps. Welcome back to Without Maps. I'm Daniel Scheffler, your host. Chandler, my producer, and I are here once again at the W New York Union Square in our suite, hanging out, overlooking the city and the water tower. Have I ever told you that I went to a dinner party in a water tower many years ago with a friend, like a last-minute invitation, and they'd set up some like pop-up to somewhere in Brooklyn, before Brooklyn was a big thing. They'd set up a dinner party and you had to climb up and then everybody sat inside, but they'd sort of opened it up a little bit so that there was more air and there was a dinner in there. It was kind of cool. What did we eat? I have to remember. I'm sure I have a photo. Anyway, so today I'm thinking about a memory that I have that is so special to me. And one of the great things about having selective memory, like my mother, is when you ask her details of some instances of things we've done together, she doesn't quite remember exactly. And then other things, I guess she's in her 80s. She remembers so crystally clear. And then once in a while, you'll ask her something and she'll have a whole new version of it. Like the way she remembers it is not the way I remember it. I just saw her in South Africa and she had this whole situation where I was like, that's not what happened. And she was like, that's how it happened for me. And I like that. Today's episode is a story about how my mother and I would travel together, and in this specific instance, we were on the Concorde. The first thing you should know about the Concorde is that it's smaller than you think. It was lower than you think, and I'm a tall person, not crazy tall, but tall enough. It was low, but I was a child, so I didn't think that. But when I look back, I think, wow, like that flight attendant looks like they're kind of bending over. And it was really fast and probably really dangerous. But this is what we know now. Travel was just something we did. My mom was a vagabond in her younger days, and my father's people were travelers dating back a dozen centuries or so. Somehow, getting onto a plane, train, or a car was never a schlep. In fact, it was always the suspense of yet another great adventure. And as the Anglo-Saxon Bübchen, nothing could beat this stomach-fluttering feeling. The 90s were brutal for so many reasons. Pared-down minimalism and grunge music infused basically everything. Lest we forget the Spice Girls in all of this. But the one place that rejected all the comme ci comme ça was the sky. In fact, it was a very particular member of the skies, the Aerospatiale BAC Concorde. Deemed as the fastest plane, it was British Airways and Air France that allowed for a love affair above the Atlantic. Here, in turbojet supersonic speed, nothing was ever too much to ask, and every finery you could imagine just wondrously arrived at your seat. A flight from Paris to New York, my favorite, or our more frequented route, London to the city that never sleeps, took a mere 3 hours with change. Just enough time to be seated in an umber and orange floral, no less, printed seat and order blushed champagne. I was allowed sparkling water and a few sips of this high-altitude elixir that my mom had a penchant for only whilst flying. I sipped, she sipped, and quietly we would both indulge in reveries glistening from where we once came and where we were setting out for. But the preparations began long before. My mother, a French import, believed in a sense of occasion, and this was to be upheld at all costs. She was never Elizabeth Taylor about this, as she was much more discreet, but graciousness inspired the dressing up for the flight. It might not be as long as a wedding day, but it is as much fun, no? She would say. My concept of weddings was limited, but besides for the dancing, it actually didn't seem that much fun at all. I, the much-adored only child, was garbed in Pierre Cardin for kids, for either such occasion. Although the designer was famously Italian, my mother's continental sensibility transcended right onto my rather ridiculous space-age kindled wardrobe. Luckily, I was never forced into a nanoscale suit, as I think my mom knew that would send anyone into years of therapy and over-analysis. My desire for extreme color and errant comfort was apparently expressed from a very young age. But for the love of Cardin, there was going to be wool. If you sit still, it won't scratch, Mum tried. It was sort of a dance we did before leaving for the airport. She'd urge me to wear a lacerating jumper, and I'd reject its very existence. Even at a tender age of under 10, I was able to argue that one would never sit still on a plane, and in mid-air, wool becomes, more woolly. Dressed for success, but dressed nevertheless, the Concorde Lounge awaited. These were the days of no money changing hands here, and it was all endowed with bona fide leather high-back Chesterfields, soft petit fours next to the tartatin, and beautiful, always puzzlingly tall maitre d's holding court. I indulged in all things familiar, and the evidence, including powdered sugar and still delicious crumbs, tarried on my clothes. Like this, you cannot board the plane, my mother would protest, and would send me to the lavatory to clean up my act. The whole boarding process was elegant back then. One by one couples, families, glamorous singletons would step onto the plane, finding gifts waiting on their seats. A leather wallet that I still use today was for me, and a family-sized silver photo frame was for my mother. Today that frame holds a photo of us, ordering drinks and waiting for takeoff to just another intercontinental voyage. Rumors of Concorde II and the Son of Concorde have existed since the Big Bird's retirement in 2003, but nothing could ever compare to the glory days of travel of the original. Ah yes, the days of fast travel, how I miss them, my mother would whisper under her breath. Today I'm on a plane virtually every week. None of them as fast as the Concorde, and I guess none of them as adventurous either. But I order drinks in the exact same way as 30 years ago. Some people drink Bloody or Virgin Marys on the plane. For me, it still remains sparkling water every time. So I found the photo of my mother and I sitting on this plane, and I showed it to her. It's in the photo frame. And she was like, "Where is this?" And I was like, "It's the plane." And she goes, "I was there?" I was like, "Well, you're literally in the photo." And she's like, "Oh, I don't remember. Where were we going?" And I was like, "But we have multiple of these photos. We have multiple trips." And she was just like, "Oh, I can't quite remember." I make it sound like she has dementia. She doesn't, but she just like, I don't know, that day she just couldn't recall exactly. And then Michael was with her and he was like, "Oh, tell me about some of these trips." And then she was like, "Well, there was this wonderful time." And then she described that photo exactly and exactly what we were wearing. So sometimes she just remembers. I guess this is what happens in your 80s. However, I did say to her the other day, my aunt, her sister, wasn't very well. So we were together and my aunt was like, "Oh, do you remember when we went to the Comores?" And my mother was like, "It wasn't the Comores, it was Mauritius." And my aunt was like, "Oh no, it was absolutely the Comores." And my mother was like, "No, it was Mauritius or it was the Seychelles." And my aunt was like, "No, I love the Comores." And I looked at my mother, and my aunt is like in her later 80s. And I looked at her, I was like, "What does it matter? Just say yes. It's like another island off Africa that we obviously may or may not have been to. Just say yes." And she was like, "No, I can't. It needs to be factual. We did not go to the Comores together." And my aunt was so insistent. She was like, "I have photos. I will find them." So off she goes and she brings like a plate, like I don't know, like a tea set plate. And on the plate, there's a photo of me as a young child holding a teddy bear, my mother, my uncle, and my aunt. And at the top of the thing, it says Seychelles. So none of them were right. And she was like, "Oh, no, wait, this wasn't the Comores. It was the Seychelles." And then, this is how the family discusses travel. Everyone remembers it differently, can't remember where we went, but the ethos of it all is how wonderful travel is. In fact, my aunt recently told me at age 85 or whatever she is now, that the only country she has yet to go to, can you believe it? Finland. And I was like, "I think we could make that happen." Michael and I were like, "This is an easy one. We could just like hop a flight to Helsinki." But she's not well and she's kind of getting old. And when they get old like that, when you leave, they say, "When are you coming back? When are you coming for another visit? When will I see you again?" And I hear a sort of slight angst in her voice. So I think that I need to get my aunt to Helsinki by hook or by crook, as they say, soon. So she's been to all over the world and she has collected spoons and plates from everywhere she's been. So she downscaled their big, quite glamorous home into a retirement setup. And I don't know how she thought that she was going to fit all these things in there. But when you visit her now, Michael was shocked. They have put all the plates and all the spoons are still there. They're just closer together now. They're like in a smaller space. Every wall, surface, every possible area that could have a plate or a spoon has a plate or a spoon. And I did think, I wonder if I will inherit these plates and spoons. But one of the people that really inspired me to travel were my aunt and uncle, because they were traveling so frequently. They would take people, they would go by themselves. They were such vagabonds in their younger days. They started when they were kind of just finishing university, and then they just took off into the world. So 60 years of travel in every possible way. And I remember as a small child, I traveled with them, but then it also just inspired me. And she would bring these t-shirts back for me. And I have a t-shirt of Snoopy, and on it says, "Let's go Greece." And I would wear that all the time with Snoopy with a Greek flag. And I would always be like, I'm going to travel the world just like them. Lo and behold, here we are. We're going to take a little break to have a word from our sponsors. Hi everyone, I want to share something that's been a game changer for my health. Organic Farmer. That's farmer with a PH and an ER. If you're looking for top quality, plant-based nutrition, you've got to check them out. Their products are crafted with the highest quality ingredients, free from artificial additives, and meticulously designed to support your overall well-being. It's like giving your body the pure, clean fuel it deserves. head over to organicfarmer.com, that's farmer with a PH, and use code WithoutMaps at checkout for 20% off site-wide. Trust me, your body will thank you. Welcome back to Without Maps. Today we're heading down to South Africa on the Rovers Rail with my mum. It is very slow and it is the art of doing nothing. Whether the great Agatha Christie novel Murder on the Orient Express comes to mind immediately or at some point in the middle of the night as the train patters on, the ambience of luxury train travel is much the same, minus the murder part, of course, as 100 years ago. The days and nights slow down, and a welcoming, leisurely pace conducts everything. Today, a health spa and organic food might also welcome you. The golden age of cocktails, peacock dressing, and the ceremony of a non-occasion are exalted on board a luxury train. Gatsby, Fitzgerald's ultimate debonair, encourages such a revisit to a certain jazzy epoch for all the world's splendor. And this is where the attraction sits for many seekers of a meditative and romantic kingdom on wheels. It was the American industrialist George Mortimer Pullman who introduced what some called then a hotel car, and this was 1864. Soon after that was the dawn of luxury trains as they spread to Europe and Asia, with the first being the Orient Express. Its maiden journey leaving Paris and traveling across the continent. Luggage trunks, furs for the ladies, and smoking jackets for the gentlemen, the sense of occasion was grander and grander. Full and faster than ever, cars and planes have replaced true yesteryear-fashioned rail travel, for the most part. The modern-day nomad now comes equipped with another iPad, some fast talk, and a lot of haste. Speed and efficiency now by far supersede the decadence of taking your time to get anywhere, but old-school rail travel and good old-fashioned locomotives have come to remind us that an unhurried escapade can just prolong the enjoyment. Rail cruising is more relevant today than any time since the 1960s, as it exemplifies a safe, unpacking once, picturesque method of traveling without the concerns of airline safety baggage restrictions. Or so says my friend Brenda Foss, who has inherited the Rovers Rail, Africa's #1 luxury train. But also due to the opening of previously inaccessible parts of the world means luxury travelers are looking for ways to access these privileged places, and a train does just the trick. The Voss family launched Rovos in 1989, and their fleet, lounge, dining, observation, and sleeper cars have all been restored to the original 1930s aesthetic and eminence. Rovos observation cars, originally A28 dining cars, obtained special permission to run at the back of the train in 1988. This enabled a substantial enlargement of the windows and the construction of unique open-air balconies. And suddenly, the most remote and beautiful Africa going by was now in perfect full view. The Edwardian design features on the train have a sort of Howard's End on wheels aesthetic. It truly feels like a celebration of the good life, and in deep contrast with the puritanical values of the previous Victorian designs of trains. Cushioned benches, extra shiny wood paneling, and carpets that give way to bury your feet slightly all unify the distinct savor of the swank old world. Life on board most trains is simple. TVs, Wi-Fi, and other connectivity are often abolished, but quietly available, and chess, bridge, and inexhaustible conversation soar. On Rovos, fine wines, South Africa's best, are lined up for delectation by on-board sommeliers, and the chef's feasts revolve around local tang, where game meat is a specialty. Daytime dress is smart casual, a unique South African way of dressing, whereas in the evenings the ladies and the gentlemen on board trick out for the occasion. For 7 stars, they strive to make interesting trains which themselves will become an attraction, not just the destination or means of transport. What Golden Eagle offers are more active journeys, including their Arctic Explorer, where they offer a range of outdoor activities in Kirkenes featuring husky dog sledding, snowshoe walking, and king crab fishing. They also offer a winter wonderland trans-Siberian journey where guests can take snowmobiles over a frozen Lake Baikal and try ice fishing, seeing the world one small step or two at a time. Over in Canada, the Canadian super luxury train Via Rail caters to both the divine art of socializing in a dining car, all dressed up, and meditating with one's own thoughts. Whether you decide to spend some time in your private cabin reading a book, watching a movie on a tablet or laptop, or enjoying the chance to sneak in a quick or long nap, the train creates the perfect environment to relax. Additionally, outside of the cabin, you'll find other passengers to mingle with, activities such as wine and beer tasting, educational chats from their staff, and the scenery as it's passing. But trains are not just for the rich and famous, the romantics, or the train spotters. Today, it's for everyone wanting to slow right down. So whether you're the hardline train jumper type or not, a simple life rolled away from time is the perfect place for, if nothing else, reflection. A trip to the bush usually starts off by a car packed with the kids, square-cut sandwiches, blue and white cooler boxes, and the requisite pair of binoculars. Well, for this journey, grab those binoculars but leave the rest behind. Rovers Rail, with 25 years of experience, will take care of everything else, including activities for the kids like board games, playing cards, and of course sightseeing from the back observation car. My bush trip on the rail took me from Pretoria all the way to Durban. The jacaranda purple streets and newly formed hipster community is the perfect place to start such a rail journey. With a prompt 10 a.m. departure from the original colonial station, your friendly porter will get your luggage on board. While the station is a trip back in time, you won't find a single Louis Vuitton trunk in sight. Multicolored suitcases in nylon and canvas appear to be the order of the day. But once you're aboard, watch the train slow down, and the whole scenario turns to a kind of sepia. I make my way to the cabin through the shoulder-width passage of wooden paneling. As the sliding door rolls open, my deluxe accommodation is revealed. 4 giant windows to peer out at the endless landscape. A double bed spacious enough for 2, and a bathroom that comes complete with an antique ball and claw Victorian bath. Sure, I'm ready to slow down to the 1930s or any era with a suite like this. As I unpack, I discover key details to rail travel, like everything needs a stable place to stand on, including myself to avoid injury and embarrassment. This is all part of the adventure. The almost century-old cars offer up a meditative rattle, and the soft patter soothes me as I ready for lunch. Heading out of the smog that circles Gauteng means that the Drakensberg Mountains are nearly in sight. Lunch, a long and immoderate affair, starts with bottles of South Africa's finest wines, Hamilton Russell, Mearlist, although I'm not drinking. In a newly furbished dining car serving Springbok carpaccio to start, and ostrich fillet, as they say in South Africa, with fresh salad as my main course. All this with elegant white tablecloths, silver cutlery, and this gorgeous Rovos insignia crockery that festoon my table. A recommendation from the waitress to pace myself is taken into consideration, and I decide to apply this to all meals on this train. The afternoon is spent lounging in the observation car, winning a game of Scrabble with a non-English speaking tourist. It doesn't take me long to forget that I have emails waiting and instead end up eating too many spongy cakes, along with the world's smallest cupcake. I should be doing the climbing, but the train does all the work as we ascend the historic Majuba Hill in KwaZulu-Natal. With time to reflect in a bed ready for napping, it is fortuitous that the train has an old-school bell beckoning me to eat yet again. A dapper jacket, slim tie, and shiny shoes garnish me for the formal dinner. Endless courses of conversation, fresh lobster, local game meats, and slices of cheesecake to ready me, and the rest of the guests, into a comatose sleep. The sun had barely kissed me good morning as breakfast dawns. Pastry in hand, I am escorted off the train and into the Nambiti private game reserve for the first game drive of the day. Some cheetah, a whole lot of giraffe, and a deceivingly cheerful hippo later means it's time for brunch. I skip the food for once and spend the afternoon rather gazing at animals on my game drive at the nearby Spionkop Game Reserve. Reluctantly, I leave the game viewing and venture back to the train for an encore of the dressy dinner in the dining car. The next morning, as we descend the escarpment, ready to arrive at Lyons River Station in slow-down Durban, I am still stuffed from all the feasting and game viewing. With my arms behind my head as a pillow and the Natal Midlands in full view, a flash of the past comes to me. The frocks and dames, the gentlemen and their airs, and how nothing has really changed. Maybe one less frill on that frock and a shaving plug for the gents. But we, the riders of the train, are exactly the same. So I wrote this piece because I love the idea of taking trains, and especially really glamorous and fabulous trains, Orient Express, etc., instead of doing instead of traveling in a different way. But there's something really meditative that I love about train travel, and I have done it on most of the continents now, and I've loved it. It's been such a wonderful, slow, not much is happening, therefore you're appreciating what is. You're able to just be like, oh, not much has happened, therefore this is just wonderful. And that's what I've loved. I did do a train trip with my mom, and we did Rovers Rail also, but from Pretoria to Cape Town. And that's a longer trip, maybe double the time that it takes to get to Durban. And my mom and I, we played canasta, we played bridge, we played cards, we played Scrabble. We just sat talking and basically ate for a few days. You just basically eat, and then you stop and you see something historical, and then you get on and you nap. It's really like a slowdown. It's kind of an amazing thing. And there's something about a train. I mean, the latest is the Dimore studio based in Milan. I was recently at the Salone di Mobile in Milan, and I popped by Dimore Studio, and they have been designing the La Dolce Vita train, which is the Orient Express, Accor's Orient Express's new train that they're launching in Italy, and it is so beautiful. And they've kind of taken all that old worldness, but given it a slightly more modern take that only Dimore Studio could do. And it's so chic and so amazing, but you have all the things that you would want. And what they've done so smartly is they've really given you access to things that you just cannot get access otherwise, right? So this train, the specific one in Italy, La Dolce Vita, it stops at all these kind of secret places and little beaches and small towns that they have access to, and then you can do an adventure, or you could do a little activity, excursion, I guess is the word. You could do an excursion and go see these things, but only on this train journey are you getting access to this. So it's like there's a rarefiedness to it, and of course it comes at a price, but the way that I think about it is like, well, you cannot see the world necessarily in this way, and when you slow down, you sort of appreciate it more. Without Maps, the podcast is produced by Chandler Mays and written by me, Daniel Scheffler. Emotional support by Michael and the best dog in the world, Ella. Until the next episode, bon voyage and happy landings. Hi everyone, I want to share something that's been a game changer for my health. Organic Farmer. That's farmer with a PH and an ER. If you're looking for top quality, plant-based nutrition, you've got to check them out. Their products are crafted with the highest quality ingredients, free from artificial additives, and meticulously designed to support your overall well-being. It's like giving your body the pure, clean fuel it deserves. head over to organicfarmer.com, that's farmer with a PH, and use code WithoutMaps at checkout for 20% off site-wide. Trust me, your body will thank you.